MIDDLEKAUFF! Hey, hey! Welcome back to Birthday Week here on the Ham Pod.
Happy 45th, guy. Happy
Thank
45th.
you. Thank you. Me and Brady.
Only one of you has a happy marriage, though. We think, everyone gets to go inside the home.
Yeah, TMT's not outside my door, so you wouldn't know.
You never know.
We probably went off. We're probably 14 hours since our last podcast, I think, since our last live stream.
I'd bet on Alyssa being a better cook than Giselle. I don't have any proof on Giselle, but I would take Alyssa.
Probably. Not
at
as
about
rich.
a 3-to-1
A
favorite.
few bucks low compared, but
I'm just talking cook. I'm not talking
okay.
resources.
Okay, for sure.
If you gave her the resources, could get ugly, in a massive kitchen with unlimited and helpers too.
Yeah. I'd be 300 by the end of the year.
Yeah, you wouldn't, be hard to look like Tom.
That's professional chef. That's sometimes the professional chef can help you because it's nothing but just Chilean sea bass but I don't want Chilean sea bass.
No, who does?
What's up, everybody? Great to see you if you're here on YouTube. Like I said, it is Tuesday midday. We got off around 10:30, I think, on Monday night Pacific time, and we are back here midday Tuesday with another show. If you're watching this YouTube, great. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that like button. We appreciate that. Comment for the algo or comment with a real take. We appreciate that. We're going to have a mailbag coming up later in the week, so get in the Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF mailbag. The way you do that is you go to Apple Podcasts, you leave us a review. We appreciate 5 stars. Although, John, I got to tell you, when you see this week's mailbag, we are getting hammered right now in the Star game.
Haters going to hate, bro.
You look like a 2007 Utah football recruit. 3 stars.
Yeah. We'll ask Alex Smith what happened.
Right.
Ask. I can't think of any of their players in the late 2000s, but I'm sure they had some good ones.
Go with Eric Rowe. Eric
Paul Kruger.
Paul Kruger. That's a good one. Star Lotulele.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking Oregon, but that's Haloti. Same cousin
Nata.
Potential.
Yeah. So it will be a birthday bag coming up. And, I did put in the bag this week a Spotify review. Somebody DM'd me. They said, hey, look, I gave you guys 5 stars on Spotify, so will you answer my question? And
I looked the other day. The pie chart used to be, I think, like 95% Apple Podcasts. People listen on Apple. Mm-hmm. Spotify's gained a little market share. They're almost at double digits, almost at 10. So, just keep swinging. If you get to 9, 10, 12, I think their goal, you just get 20, 30%. You're building a business.
Yeah, I mean, look, Apple's been at the game for a long time, right? It's still very, very early in the game.
Feels like they created the game.
They created the game. They did create the game. That's why there's one platform that 92% of the people use.
What would we do if they're like, we're going to charge you $50,000 a year?
Well,
they kind of got a lot of us by the balls. Please take it easy on us.
We'd call Tito's. We'd be like, Tito's, we need a little more.
Yeah. Sleep number.
We need a little more.
Butcher Box, send them some knuckle meat.
We are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka, as it turns out, which is unofficially the sponsor of Birthday Week here on the Ham Podcast. Just turns out that both of us were born this week, and it just turns out that we both have plenty of Tito's on hand. So Tito's Handmade Vodka, it is America's original craft vodka. It creates so many of the official drinks of the Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF podcast. We did get a text from our guy, Devin, the other day. He said our cans are in. We got our, the cans that took the world by storm. The canned drink, the empties that you can make your own, take it on the course with you, whatever, have it on your Zoom, and enjoy. Tito'sVodka.com, too. So many great recipes for Halloween. Ow. So you can go check out Tito's Vodka, John. What else could you ask for?
Yeah. What we want you to do this week is, if you got, I'm sure you do, in your freezer, if you're out and about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whenever, Sunday afternoon watching the Niner game, have a Tito's and cheers Haberman MIDDLEKAUFF birthday week. Just do this for Tito's. do it for our parents for conceiving us and creating this podcast. Because without our birthdays and 9 months before when we were originally born in 1985 and 1984, this would never exist. So, and never would have led to one of the greatest partnerships we've ever seen with Tito's. I'm literally wearing a polo right now, Tito's. I have about 50 of them, and I love them.
Yep. Tito's handmade vodka, John, bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely Eddie proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Do me a favor, when you talk to your mom, ask her, because my mom the other day called me to tell me that when I was born, I had a big scowl on my face and I looked like I didn't want to be there, as if like I'm the only baby who came out with a scowl on his face. But
you can lean a little negative.
That was a preview of my personality. So just ask your mom. What expression did you have on your face?
I was wrapped around. I wasn't breathing. I mean, I'm
a fighter.
Some say I'm a miracle baby.
Fighter.
Honestly, though, I had the thing wrapped around, and I was
got big.
Yeah, just. But I unwrapped it. I guess as 0 years old, I unwrapped it and I said, "Hey," and I started waving at everybody.
You pulled out a knife and just cut.
I said, "Go Raiders."
It was somewhat symbolic of what you would encounter in the radio business some 31 years later or whatever it was, you know. I've been here. Somewhere deep down your body was like, I've been here before.
Yeah, survival mode, baby.
John against the world. So congrats to you. But nonetheless,
congrats to us on life, you know.
Ask your mom. And thanks to everybody out there, Tito's included, for helping us continue this endeavor. When it's your birthday, you start reflecting on things.
You do,
as always. And one thing I reflect on is how thankful I am for this. So thanks to everybody. Seriously, I'm wearing this promo code ham hat, which somebody suggested might have been your first words at the hospital. 10% off your overnight stay. Try that at the local hospital. We're also sponsored by ButcherBox, John.
This is good. You know?
Yeah, let's get on to the next piece of business. ButcherBox.com/ham. ButcherBox.com/ham. You can get free steak. You can get free lobster plus $10 off right now at ButcherBox.com/ham.
Yep, guy. You get free shipping in the continental U.S. No big deal. Listen, here's the thing with ButcherBox. You go there, you put together a box. Chicken, red meat, steaks, ground beef. They have lobsters. We've had ribs. You get it all, and you create it, and you get it sent to yourself. But before you do, you use the promo code HAM and butcherbox.com/ham to get a bunch of free stuff, because that's the key here, guy. You get free steaks, you get free lobster, and you get free knuckle meat.
Yeah, it's 10 from the lobster, the knuckle, 2 10-ounce New York strip steaks and 8 ounce of lobster claw knuckle meat free in your first order, plus the $10 off. Just go to butcherbox.com/ham. And if you don't want to do all the picking, if you're like, it's too much decision making, it paralyzes me, that's fine. They've got boxes pre-made, kind of. You can do the curated. Or I guess you can do the customized, or you can do the curated, which is the ones they already have kind of organized for you. It's all going to be an amazing value. So right now, butcherbox.com/ham, 2 10-ounce New York strip steaks, 8 ounces of lobster claw, and knuckle meat for free in your first order, plus $10 off.
Do you think Kyle gave Sean McVay the knuckle sandwich last night?
Boy, I mean, knuckle sandwich, you're just thankful. Like, are the Rams the Niners slump buster, a.k.a. Mark Grace? Suspended from TV for talking about slum busters one time many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of are their slum buster, are they not? They really are. Without the Rams. If you would have told me last night was the Eagles or last night was Tampa, I don't know if we're sitting here like this, but you tell me it's the Rams. What did Alex Smith you say he said last night? Like, of course I'm picking the Niners. I've seen this movie before.
Yeah, Alex Smith said, I just saw this game on Monday. He said this before the game. I just saw this game last year on Monday Night Football. I'm going with the Niners.
Yeah.
And RG3 said, not so fast, my friend.
And Bob tried to say, hey, what did he say? The pupil has become the master?
Yeah, basically. The student.
Yeah, well, the student, it turns out, is still not quite the master. Kyle just kicks his ass.
Not a championship, though. So
does have a championship.
You don't want to matter in the playoffs. Don't take anything away.
You said 7 of 8, right? The Niners. Would Kyle trade those 7 for the 1? And
you'd rather be 1 and 7 head to head, but the 1 was in the NFC Championship game to go on and win the championship. Yeah.
The crazy thing is, the majority of those wins, including a large percentage of the NFC Championship game, have looked very similar. Did you see? I Instagrammed it. They put the 3 pick sixes side by side, 2 Stafford and 1 Goff on like outside throw where they picked it all off. They all ended up in the DB's hand. One was like a true pick. The others kind of were tipped, but they were all, the Niners have had 3 pick sixes against the Rams in recent years on a similar kind of quick screeny play.
Wow. I did not see that, but I will go look for that.
And then I was telling you before, you know, you and I, your career was off and running, but when I got into talking, the Niners-Seattle rivalry was really in its heyday. And there was like a level of respect of just 2 dudes that like get inside the UFC, you know, the octagon. And once you're done, you just kind of like give the guy a nod as one guy's nose is pointing the other way. And the other guy that just won has a broken arm. And it's just like, we are 2 crazy motherfuckers. This is a crazy way of life. And while I'm a champion and you lost, I respect what just went down here for the last 12 minutes in this bad boy with Rogan with a microphone in my face. It felt a little bit like that with the Niners in Seattle. Remember, Richard Sherman, the turkey at the 50 happened after Harbaugh, like when the Niners became a joke. But when Jim was there, it felt like an all-out, just heavyweight brawl. And it wasn't that much like everyone on the field knew at any moment anyone could have a leg shattered, concussion. I mean, it was just you on the edge of your seat physicality-wise, a little bit like previously the Ravens and Steelers, kind of in our collegiate years, just a war, right? This feels unlike that, kind of the opposite, where the Niners consistently kind of mock those guys. And there's just kind of running element of this with Kyle and Sean, but it doesn't feel like their rivalry like it did with Jim and Pete and the team. It more feels like the Niners, but I think they respect 99, but the rest of the team, like, is Richard constantly tweeting about Matt Stafford somewhat indicative of the way some of those guys feel as well? Like this whole thing, like these guys are fucking overrated? Because clearly Richard feels in a weird way much closer to this Niner team and rooting them on than he does Seattle. Obviously they have probably a higher ceiling, so it's easier to do, but like these are his guys.
I do think if we were to sidebar and Richard for a second, you know, Richard experienced a quarterback who in his mind got too much credit for being the quarterback. Richard had seen Kaepernick and Crabtree get a lot of love. And what did he tell Aaron Andrews? Don't test me with a, what do you say, a sorry-ass receiver?
Sorry-ass wide receiver, yeah.
Sorry-ass wide receiver like Crabtree. Richard, I think, thinks Stafford has never won anything. And got, I mean, up until last year, right? I'm just
Super Bowl champ.
The mindset. No, I understand. I'm just saying, like, has for a long time had this opinion that you know, he didn't have the right to all the credit he was getting. So I do think Richard probably fundamentally just leans that way. As a defensive player, the offensive guys get too much
way more money,
way more money, way more attention, way more love, all that kind of stuff. And you know, a cornerback gets beat once, and we're like, God, he sucks. He's like, well, what about the other 50 snaps that I won on? What about those, right? Easier to give credit to the guy who catches 1 touchdown pass and 7 targets when he got shut down 6 other times. So maybe that's part of it. I think probably, you know, the one thing we have seen though, even though the rivalry in terms of the wins and losses isn't even, it does feel like last night there was a scuffle multiple times. Ramsey is just on edge. Bobby Wagner, I don't think is particularly liked by the 49ers players.
I felt like Ayuk threw his hat in the ring last night, right? Of like, hey, motherfuckers, I'm here to stay.
Yep. Debo throws himself around.
Debo kind of mocked Jalen. Didn't know what he was doing.
Mocked him. Jimmy, when Jalen when Jalen knocked that like screen pass down, he started talking to Jimmy, and you could tell Jimmy was yapping back with him. So there is something there. Like I think it's not Seattle, but
I'm not saying there's not like respect while the game's going on and it's physical and like people are getting lit up left and right, because it is. It has similarities to like a really good rivalry. I'm talking after the game, how openly they talk, how they don't respect them. That's a little unique to this rivalry that doesn't parallel the Niners Seattle.
What was something in particular said that?
Well, Debo kind of made fun of Jalen Ramsey. It just feels like the last couple of years they've just the respect level. Like I don't think they view them as good as us casually on the outside. I would say the league. I wonder if they deep down don't respect them quite as much as I think people would just assume they do as an opponent.
Maybe they think they're tougher.
They clearly are physically.
Yeah.
Over time, they shove them around.
It's hard when the other team has won the championship and you haven't, and they went through you to get it. Like, you
I know,
have to give them some basic level. Well, I guess maybe we have to. They don't. Who am I to tell Brandon? You have to give them. Who cares? That's not how it works.
Do you think the league would sign up for this to be like? I mean, last year, remember Monday Night Football was Rams, Arizona. They would sign up for Rams Niners as a playoff game, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, your NFC games, we'll see. I mean, Philly always rates. So Philly, even without anybody controversial.
Single Brady.
We'll see what the Bucks look like, what Brady looks like. Is it another run for Brady in the offing? Dallas, you would take it. Green Bay.
If me and you ran the NFL ratings-wise, what would you like the Final Four NFC, like the second week, right?
Yeah,
the big weekend.
Niners, Eagles, Cowboys.
You think you'd go Eagles over like Rodgers?
Well, I don't know. I think the Eagles.
I think you'd want Brady there.
All right. So you're either taking out Philly.
I think you take out Philly.
Who was Philly when Philly played on Monday night? Well, I guess it was Titans Bills on ESPN, and Philly was on ABC. So that's
Vikings.
Yeah. So you go Green Bay, Tampa, because I think there's something we'll see with Tampa. I think there's something with Philly that just feels like there is a buzz and a momentum that a new contender gets. And the question ultimately is like, now Green Bay could win this week and be 4-1. They play the Giants. Like the Giants or the Packers are going to be 4-1.
I feel like my first two picks, I know Cowboys really rate, but it's like Rodgers, Brady are just picks.
Well, are the Niners in the 4?
I mean, Dallas would probably have to be in the 4 because of the brand. But if you said Niners, Rams, Brady, Rodgers,
that would also
intermix them all. I think you can't lose.
Yeah, I agree that you can't lose. I think the question is, would Philadelphia outrate one of those teams? I think they might.
We might find out because I think they are on the path to be the number 1 seed, and we know now the number 1 seed is the only team that gets a bye.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 3 or 4 wins away. They get to 8, 9-0. It's going to be hard for these other teams, right? If you had to guess right now, what's going to win the NFC West? 11?
2 teams are 2-2. Plus,
they're all 2-2.
Cardinals are 2-2, and they play Philly this week, right?
But I'm just talking about watching all 4 of them. Like it doesn't feel like there's a 12-5 team in this bunch.
Yeah, 11.
You convinced me there might be a tie at 10. I don't think it's inconceivable. They all got some flaws. They all got some issues.
Well, it's not 2019 when the Niners started. What did they start that year? 9-0. Were they 9-0 to start the year?
Yeah, I mean they went 13-3 and they had to win the final game to win the division.
Yeah, and there were 2 other 13-3 teams, and Seattle was 11-5, but was almost 12-4. If Seattle had won, they'd have been 12-4. You'd have been 12-4. They'd have won the division.
They each twice, yeah.
Right. So like that was a year where it was stacked. Minnesota won 10 games that year. But you're right. Back to the,
Yeah.
Back to your original point. Like if Monday Night Football again on October 3rd had been at Philly, because you just made me think like, what happens if the Niners are going to Philadelphia in the playoffs?
Tough place to play.
Well, just tough place to play. But just think about Jalen Hurts. Trying to corral Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae, right? They're really dangerous.
Goddard's a really good tight end. Miles Sanders is a good running back. But to me, I feel better about the defense being able to neutralize them. Their defensive line is fantastic. Trent Williams better be healthy, and McGlinchey better figure some stuff out.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think you're holding them to 9 points.
Oh, no.
You're not getting the Packer game last year. You're not getting the Rams game Monday night. Like that team is just really too good on offense.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about it real quick. Here we go. You sent me this last night. Here are your NFC standings. Philly, 4-0. Minnesota, 3-1. Tampa, 2-2. Niners, 4 seed, 2-2. Dallas 3-1, Giants 3-1, Packers 3-1. Those are your top 7. Then the Rams are 2-2. and they are the
I forgot Minnesota beat Green Bay first week of the season.
Yeah, how about them being 3-1? And how about the Giants? So you figure the Giants will fall out of there. I mean, the question is, it doesn't feel like there's going to be 3 NFC teams vying for playoff contention. We'll see. If the Cardinals win this week, you'll have to take them seriously. But of the teams that are not in right now, Dallas is not in.
Well, I think the 2 locks to stay.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I had the. Go ahead.
The two locks to stay is Tampa's winning that division, right? They are going to be a top 4 seed. I don't know what their overall record is going to be. You can convince me it's 10-7 because they cruise. You convince me because of their division they get to 12, but they're winning that division. So they're going to be, one of the top 4 teams. And Philly, to me, is winning that division. Now, I could look like an idiot if, Dallas beats the Rams and they just keep winning games. Like it'll be kind of one of those Seattle Niner thing. Like it's just going to be how they play against the Eagles, right? And last year they did sweep the Eagles. And if you remember, Jalen Hurts on a Monday night game in Dallas played fucking putrid. So I think Dallas is just thinking we just got to sustain with the Eagles, and then we play them twice, right?
You're right. Dallas has to feel really, really good. They got a shot if they win.
Their defense is fantastic right now.
I mean, they're 3-0 with their backup quarterback.
They have, like, Nick Bosa feels like the defensive player of the year, and Micah Parsons feels like the defensive player of the year. So when you have that, and you can kind of build around that, you just cause havoc. Honestly, I kind of like Dallas this weekend against the Rams.
Against the Rams. That game's in L.A.
You think the Rams are a lock playoff team?
Well, I mean, the thing with the NFC is just here are the teams not in the playoffs right now. Rams, Cardinals, Falcons, Seahawks, Bears. Then there's the Panthers, the Saints, the Lions, and Washington. Well, who's better, the Rams or the Giants? The Rams.
The Rams, yeah.
Who's better, the Rams?
But that's not the way it always works. I mean,
no,
the Rams.
It's not the way it always works, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, I don't think I wouldn't use the word lock necessarily if they lose this week and go to 2-3, but to me, they're clearly one of the best 7 teams in the NFC.
I agree, but they're scheduled because the division plays
That's true.
NFC West. Like, they got the Niners coming up again in a couple weeks. Then they got Tampa. Then they play the Chiefs. Then they got Vegas. Then they play Green Bay. Then they play the Chargers. It's just they just got a lot of hard games that, like, how are the Rams going to block Chris Jones and Khalil Mack and
But who is
Tampa?
But how many teams are really going to run away to the point that the Rams aren't going to be in this thing week 15, 16, 17, 18?
I guess my point is it's going to be a little harder. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm with you. They should make it. They have one of the best coaches. They still have really good players. But when your offensive line is that shitty, and their offense, I listened to a little bit of McVay talking. Like, their offense has been really, really bad this year, for their standards and what they're paying some guys, right? I mean, they have a $40+ million quarterback. They got a $28 million wide receiver. I mean, Allen Robinson makes a lot of cash. They drafted running backs high. Tutu was a bust.
Haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, he sucks.
They gave the ball to the other guy from Texas.
So they got issues.
They do have issues. They do. And when you watch them, to watch them is to realize how great Cooper Kupp is for them, because he is clearly the best player they have on offense by a wide margin.
Well, like Tampa, right, against the Chiefs, kind of got worked. But I saw, did you see the stat? The NBC put it up. Brady, when scoring 31 points, was like 125 and 4. Like, he's never lose. And you just go, their defense is really good. Who's going to smoke them like Andy and Mahomes? That's probably an 11-win team with ease.
And like you said, Andy and Mahomes really wanted that game.
Really, really bad.
Tom does have more time for #film study.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Tom spotted out and about with, like, Leo.
Oh, what was Leo's group called? The Pussy Posse. That was like Leo and Toby Maguire. I guess they made a movie. I didn't realize this. Somebody sent me a Leo article a few weeks ago. Leo and that crew with Toby and a few other guys, they made a movie in the 90s. I don't remember what it was called. It was like
Gangs of New York?
No. They made a movie that after they saw it, got like a legal injunction to prevent its release because it made them look bad. They didn't like the way it made them look.
What are they doing? Chasing chicks?
Yeah, I mean, it's just them acting apparently like the way everyone says they just act in real life.
So they were just being themselves?
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie. I think there's some way through like some freedom of something you can get a download link to it somehow, blah, 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 blah. But like the guy who made the movie has been banned from releasing the movie.
I'd check that out.
Yeah, I want to find it, but they're all young. Like it was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
I don't know what that has to do with the standings, but that was a Brady sidebar. Anyway, the Niners win one game. They're right back in that thing. So check this out. This is Chris Biederman, our buddy Chris, wrote this today. I tweeted this. Nick Bosa's approach to the game is considered pretty unique in Niners HQ, but Kyle Shanahan just mentioned Bosa's mentality when asked about Talanoa Hufanga, saying their approaches are similar. Shanahan's not a hyperbole guy, so for him to throw that out feels pretty notable. And then Matt Barrows posted the next gen stats. Hufanga reached 21 miles per hour during his interception, faster than any Niner ball carrier this year. Jeff Wilson on his touchdown was 20.8 miles per hour, tops for a Niners offensive player. And somebody tweeted at us, JR tweeted at us, 40 times are close to worthless, finally. And while I know you don't love necessarily that perspective, I do think it gives us a chance to talk about a guy who we talked about a little bit on Monday night for just his natural kind of feel. And I don't know, maybe his physical talents are better than people realized, but he clearly is one of their key. He is becoming irreplaceable on their defense.
Well, we told the story during training camp about Drake Jackson and Hufanga, talking to someone at Niners camp in their front office about, over the Clay Helton era when they lost a lot of games. Naturally, when you scout players in losing environments, it can be kind of negative. Everyone's losing. It's not a healthy environment. Like you go into Alabama, you go into Ohio State, you go into Georgia. If they are negatively speaking upon you, that's a bad thing because everything's positive, right? You're winning, you're champions, you're competing for championships. Everyone's going to the league. It's a focused area. That was the opposite of the Clay Helton era. And as the guy explained to me, the difference of like Drake Jackson, who kind of just fell under the category of basically everyone in the program where it was hard to kind of get to the bottom of everything. It was like there wasn't a soul, no matter how many games they lost, that didn't swear by Hufanga. Basically, the way he described it, he rose above it all, which is very rare. And it's pretty crazy watching USC right now under Lincoln, just how impressive, like they feel where they're going, Yep. It's clear like how different it just was. And he just said like, nobody, you couldn't find a human being in the building, no matter how ugly a day, no matter how ugly a game, no matter who just got fired, who had a negative thing to say about Talanoa Hufanga. And I think he's representing that since he's been here as just a guy who came in. One, when you're a late round draft pick, you're not guaranteed shit. You're not guaranteed to make the team. Now, clearly he had backers on the team, right? I think it's fair to say the head coach and the general manager really liked the player. He fits a lot of things that they look for. Physical from John, just safety, willing to fucking knock you out. And then Kyle, serious, focus, also physical player. Like they clearly have a type. But then you got to take advantage. Like even if coaches are rooting for you and giving you some opportunities, you do got to take advantage of them. And this guy has beyond ran with them. Because last year he's a role player, right? Special teams, hitting people, came in occasionally, made some big plays. Then has one of the most historic fumble recoveries in the history of the franchise. And this year, I don't want to say handed a starting spot because he had kind of earned it. It had opened up that way. But then once the games come, you do got to play well. And he's fucking dominated, guy. I mean, he has stood out on a defense full of guys standing out. That's what's crazy. Like to stand out on this defense, it's difficult. And he's one of their better draft picks, it feels like. And it's so early in his career, but I don't want to go this far yet. But you remember Kittle by about year 2, it was like, God, they hit a home run here with a 5th round pick. He's kind of got that vibe of a 6th round pick, doesn't he?
Yeah, it goes from, they got some good depth with this guy, good value, to, okay, they've got a solid starter, to, they've got a key part of their defense, to, do they just have one of the best? Because if he's healthy, he's going to be playing this year on one of the best defenses in the NFL, which means there will be opportunities to make plays all over the field. And then you just start making plays and you start making more plays. I mean, you look back at him, Johnny was a first-team All-American, which college football You have to be a first-team All-American to qualify for the College Football Hall of Fame. You can't be a College Football Hall of Famer if you were not a first-team All-American during your college career. So it's it's a significant honor. Now, it doesn't guarantee you any pro success. We know that. He was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. And, he got drafted by a team that values that league. We see a lot of teams on the West Coast. It does feel, I don't know if the numbers reflect this, like the Niners, the Seahawks, the Rams, like guys from Utah, from Washington, from USC.
So much easier for your scouts and your GM to see them, right?
Maybe it's that. So I think you said it. He is such a fit from a personality standpoint with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Like I saw Eric Crocker today tweeted, like, how is it that Kyle Shanahan's an offensive genius and yet he's got a defensive team? And that's kind of what his tweet was. He got into more specifics, but that's how I remember it. And my response, kind of kidding, was because Kyle Shanahan deep down wishes he was a middle linebacker and not a wide receiver, right? Like deep down, even though Kyle gets kind of this boy genius offensive play caller thing, at his core belief about football is it's about hitting other people hard, not about running by them or jumping over them. His core belief is it's about being stronger and pushing people. And so, I think sometimes offensive coaches put all of their effort and their attention into having a fun or a great or a high scoring offense. And a lot of the credit goes to the players they have and to the player evaluations, Adam Peters and John Lynch, and obviously having good coordinators like Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans. But you do get what you emphasize. And clearly Kyle Shanahan, some offensive coaches, you watch their teams and you go, well, they're getting what they emphasize. And what they emphasize is kind of flashy. When you watch Kyle, I don't think I do think he gets some credit. What he emphasizes clearly is smart, physical, no bullshit, tough-nosed defense. And everyone says that's what they want a team to be. But they clearly he puts his draft capital where his mouth is, right? Like they draft defensive players a lot. And not just flashy guys, a lot.
Well, who are his favorite players on this team on offense? George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel. All physical ass kickers. Like he's not really in, like, would you say Andy Reid's one of the rare former offensive linemen who wishes he was a wide receiver? But like when I say, what do you think of Andy Reid, right? You think Deshaun Jackson, Tyreek Hill, Shady McCoy.
That's
even like they draft Clyde in the first round. Like he likes.
Think about it.
Kelsey is. You said last week Kelsey's plays a different position than Kittle.
Yeah. Think about it though. With Andy is a kid who grew up shooting threes, but then was the biggest player, so they put him at center. Andy, punt. How many offensive linemen in the NFL today participate in the punt, pass, and kick competition?
He loved it. He wanted to be a punter.
That's what he wanted to be. And they're like, no, you go over there with the big guys. He's like, no, I'm a quarterback. And
he's a little guy stuck in a big guy's body.
Exactly. So that's kind of Shanahan in that way too. But anyway, maybe they have a feel for field. You scouted players in the NFL? You scouted college players. I think one of the questions I would have then for people who evaluated like you did is, how do you evaluate a player's feel, right? Because that is the thing when we talk about look how fast he ran in the game versus how fast he ran at the combine. What we're talking about is somebody who plays in a way that is different than how they appear on paper, right? So we're talking about scouting the games versus the traits.
I think the problem with him is he ran a 4.64, and in college he was not playing in space, right? He was up at the line of scrimmage a lot, like he is now. But he weighed 200 pounds. So you couldn't go, well, maybe he could play linebacker, right? He was never going to play linebacker. And people just hadn't seen him play in space. And really, they don't ask him to cover half the field, right? He is up around the line of scrimmage. He is around tight ends. He is, triggering on wheel routes to running backs. Like, they are not asking him to play like their other safeties, like Jimmy Ward does. So to me, when you get a guy, you have to go, we have a plan to use this guy, because I see a lot people overthought it and 40 times don't matter. No, 40 times help determine your value. The NFL draft is a marketplace. It's not his market value at the time. Like, if he's a $300,000 home, you're not going to pay $1 million for him. Everyone acknowledged he's somewhere between a 5th and 7th round pick. So it's easy to go, well, he should have gone in the second round. Well, at the time coming into the draft, there wasn't a soul in the league that thought he should be a top 75 pick. So you drafting him that high would be insane because you can get other players before you get him. That's where the post conversation becomes kind of weird. I do understand, though. I remember him coming out and early on talking to friends last year of like, what was his deal? And they just said they couldn't find a position. They didn't think he could play safety. And a lot of teams do not have the safety near the line of scrimmage. The safeties are back. So they basically, you have to be able to truly cover. And the one thing we can say about Hufanga is the Niners are not asking him to just man up with guys in the open field or play in space. When I look at the screen, 29 is up around the line of scrimmage, or at least around Fred and Greenlaw, right? He is not back with Odom or when Jimmy's playing. He's not going to be back there. Now, occasionally he will, depending on the coverage, like back pedal, but they are using him correctly. Part of hitting on players, like George Kittle's value, why he became such a star, is the Niners' fucking run game. Immediately they asked him to block, he dominated blocking. Like, you got to ask the guys to do the right thing. And that's what why I think they've hit on a lot of random guys, is because they specifically asked them to do what they're good at, right?
Which is coaching, right? Don't put a square peg in a round hole.
No, and I think it's easy. That's why a lot of coaches are bad, not because they don't know exactly what they want out of their offense or defense. It's because when they get involved in the draft process, they fall for a guy that actually doesn't work with what they're going to ask him to do, and then they get frustrated once the guy's on the team. And it's happened to Kyle. I mean, it happened to every coach or GM, right? You draft a guy and he doesn't fit. But I think the Niners, why they've been able to replenish so many guys, is they found fits. They found fits.
Yeah. You know, you made me think of, when you're talking about draft value, it's what is success for a professional bettor? 55% or whatever the number is, 54.6%, right? Whatever the number is, right? That's what it takes for a professional bettor, the percentage of its bets to hit to be a successful bettor. Think about that. If, you know, that's 45% misses, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Right. I mean, like, you just are going to the fifth rounder who succeeds is not unheard of. Somebody in the fifth round is going to succeed, right? It's not like everybody who's a fifth round is a guy that nobody thinks can play.
But I just think people struggle with, once a guy becomes a good player, like this guy, how Cam Chancellor, for example, is probably the best quote unquote box safety of his generation. He was a fifth round pick. Like, you don't need to get the sweet box safety in the second round. That's just not where those guys are going.
Here, let me read you some of this, because this is all, here's the NFL. This is the
it's Lance Zierlein writes this up.
Zierlein and then Chad Reuter. But strengths, and these are, I'll read you the strengths and the weaknesses, and they'll all sound like they're the same thing. Has the size of a box safety, eye-popping production in the 2020 season, forces blockers to account for him near the line of scrimmage, rarely false steps when reading and reacting to the play. Okay, so maybe that's an example. Maybe he plays a little quicker than he is because he doesn't take a false step. Flows to the football with good leverage, shows ability to dip under O-line blocks, comes to balance and drives hips through contact, hammers anything in front of him from split safety. Good pattern reading off from the slot, proper angles when tackling after the catch, limiting yak. Okay, weaknesses. Now, these are all very similar. Broke his right collarbone twice and dislocated the shoulder on the same side.
Well, why would that happen?
Suffered a concussion in 2019. Durability will be a major concern due to aggressive style. So this is Deebo Samuel at safety. Athletic limitations could make him scheme dependent. Overly concerned, looking for misdirection, gets behind on the play. Maybe that's just teaching.
Well, here's an example. Hufanga in the scouting report at USC was 199 pounds. I don't know exactly what he played at USC, but when he got to the combine after it must have been his.
Wait, he was 199 pounds when he got to the combine?
Yep.
That's crazy.
You know what Cam Chancellor was coming out of college?
What?
230 pounds.
Yeah. I wonder what Hufanga now looks like. He's 220.
So what would you say? Yeah, I mean, maybe 215. 15. He's just, I mean, Cam was really, really big, but I do think it's fair to go, this is how the guy's going to play. Will it hold? Like, he's already shattered collarbones and got a concussion. He's not going to play differently. Will that hold up in the NFL? And maybe NFL players aren't quite as big.
The Niners' attitude is, well, let's see. If he only lasts 2 years, then that's what happens, right? That's how they play their guys.
He had multiple broken collarbones.
Multiple broken collarbones and a dislocated shoulder on the same side as the broken collarbones. Now, I don't know if that's 3 injuries or 2, but will struggle to carry vertical routes down the field, sees breaks coming but can't burst to cover them, doesn't gain depth quickly enough with his pedal and swerve. A source tells us, said a scouting director for an NFC team, you don't think he should be able to make so many plays, but there he is all the time near the ball. The injuries are a concern, though, and I think it pushes him down to the 3rd day. So, it's interesting. We've not really talked about his college injuries when we've
I didn't realize he was injured so much.
It's probably not something we realized since, when he was drafted, we probably read this scouting report and forgot about it. But maybe he would have been drafted higher if not for all
the I think a healthy, same player probably goes, has a chance to go 3rd, 4th. I mean, Guy, those are major, multiple broken collarbones and a concussion. I just think you go, could this guy immediately get injured? Because that's how he's going to play. To me, if he's uninjured, he probably goes 100 spots higher than, because it was clear, right? Everyone's saying the same shit. The Niners said the same stuff. People I talked to said the same. No one disputed like the guy couldn't play. Sometimes like I just don't see it. It's like a lot of hype on this guy. Everyone's like, yeah, you turn on the tape, 15 makes every other tackle, and he crushes people. The only question is like, and then he'll shatter his collarbone. I mean, that's somewhat concerning, right? If you have foot issues as a wide receiver, right, that there are certain injuries for certain type players that would just make you nervous. I would say shoulders with big hitters.
Honestly, foot with anybody.
Foot with everybody.
I'm nervous for Armstead right now with plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, it's a problem. Knee with Kinlaw.
Knee with Kinlaw. Absolutely. John, the Panthers are coming up this week for the 49ers, who, by the way, the 49ers, I told you this before the pod, so I won't make you pretend to guess again. 2nd best point differential in the NFC right now. Go figure that one. I don't think you would have expected that, but they're not giving up points. Here's how few points they're giving up. Eric Branch with this nugget. The Niners are allowing 3.81 yards per play, which would be the lowest figure in the NFL since 1977. I'm pretty sure Dandy Don Meredith was calling Monday Night Football games in 1977. I know you like Troy singing on Monday night. The Panthers, the Niners' next opponent, are ranked 32nd in the NFL in total offense. So 2 things to consider. Big picture, lowest yards per play in the league since 77. Middlekauff's birth year. Kidding. And the Panthers are a bad offense.
You think Namath had a Namath cast in 1977?
Hey, what's up? Call now. Check your zip code. See if you qualify. Medicare is for you. Don't leave your money to the government.
Do you think this ensures? I mean, it felt like he had a ton of momentum just coming into the season before the Niners defense is probably even better than expected. DeMeco to be a head coach? Or is there always an uphill battle when it comes to defensive coaches?
Well, I just think the short answer is yes. He is going to be a head coach. And it feels like if you asked me to bet, I would bet he will be a head coach in 2023. We saw with Saleh, you probably could have bet he'd be a head coach the year before he actually became a head coach, right? And it might be, DeMeco, if they have a great year and they've got the number 1 defense and he's got a bunch of these guys coming back, he might be in a position kind of like Leftwich, where he didn't have to take a job. He had a pretty good job going, right? Byron didn't have to take a job. It felt like he can wait, and Byron Leftwich will become a head
Well, he said no unless Balky gets fired.
Yeah, right. So I think DeMeco will be similar. Should have bet on Balky. I mean, look at what this team he's put together.
Doug's like, yeah, I'll work with a guy.
I think DeMeco. Now, here's a question. Is this the game that DeMeco shows the Panthers owner that this should be his next coach? Does DeMeco get the Panthers job this week, holding Baker to 6 points?
That is a good thought. I do wonder, do you think Tepper, after giving Rule a ton of money, even though it's like a ton of money, Rule was making a ton of money, that was just the cost of acquisition, is less likely to go splashy? Or when you're that rich, kind of, Steve Cohen with the Mets, like, I'm just going to try to hire the best coach. Like, expenses aren't an issue for me.
I don't think anybody in football, Wisconsin, like we talked about last night, Wisconsin didn't just pay Paul Chryst $11 million to go away, and then now they're going to have to go cheap on the next guy. They're going to pay even more money for the next guy. Nobody's spending less on coaches. They're spending more. Like I saw somebody like, Mel Tucker got $90 million. I don't know, teams are going to back off from that. No, they're not. No, they're not. The ADs haven't changed. Jimmy Sexton hasn't changed. The market has not changed. And the TV dollars are only going up. Same in the NFL. These guys are paying more for teams. Well, you pay more for a team. Does that mean you're going to save money on the coach or spend more money on the coach? You don't buy a Porsche and then put cheap tires on it because you spent all your money on your car. You spend more money on your tires. He's going to spend more money on his coach. I don't know why people always wonder, like, are they going to spend less on coaches now? No. I mean, the Raiders might, maybe, but they didn't. Even the Raiders didn't. They spent all that money on Gruden. It didn't work. And they just went and got Josh, who I don't know what he's making, but it's not cheap. He's not cheap.
He was making like 5 to be the offensive coordinator. So I would guess, if I had to guess, Josh is making 10. I mean, I think Josh makes a lot of money.
Panthers might be a good job. You get a new quarterback, good defensive talent.
Yeah, good people like living in Charlotte. The only thing I think, do you remember when the Browns were interviewing Saleh and Stefanski, and then they played and Saleh punked Stefanski, and it was like, oh, Saleh just got the job. Playoff game, punked the guy. The guy was like, it was mano-a-mano, and it was really, he was the offensive coordinator, solid defensive coordinator, and Saleh in the defense fucking destroyed Kirk Cousins. And then Stefanski got the job. So it's a cool talking point, but one game does not. Now this new owner, I would say it'll be fun thing to say the potential, and I would imagine if they fire Rule, which Rule's in major trouble if he loses this game, like to get fired before Halloween because he's headed 1-4, then he's 1-5, and it just get ugly fast. And their offense sucks, and they're probably going to get punked by DeMeco. Like, there is a decent chance the final score of this game is like 23-3. I mean, Baker Mayfield has been atrocious, and this defense is going to be licking their lips if they can get back up for the game like they just did, which is always a little difficult, but I don't think that guarantees anything in this kind of world. No, we've seen it before.
I agree with that.
I bet that's talked about. People are on Twitter like he's auditioning. And not that he's not. It's not like you would always want to show potential employers how talented you are at the job. But like, would Vance Joseph, did he just audition for the, he just punked Baker? Like a lot of people are punking Baker.
Now, by the way, I'm going to show you a photo. For those of you listening to the podcast, I'll describe the photo. It's a coach. It's a white man with a beard and a hat, and he's pointing. He's wearing a Bills hoodie and a Bills hat, and he's talking to a player on the Bills wearing a red jersey. Last name is Smith, and he's wearing the number 6. Do you know who this coach is?
LSU guy.
It's Joe Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who not that long ago was about to be an NFL head coach. And was
the difference, though, is guy.
No. I'm not comparing him to DeMeco at all. Totally different. I agree. I'm just saying this guy was fast. It would change really fast. He was the OC for the Panthers. He got fired after. Did he even last the full year as OC?
Yeah, he got one full year, and then he lasted like half the next year.
He's the QB coach of the Bills now. Now you're right. He's not. DeMeco is.
But you get. I would say this: you get derailed, like thrown off the tracks. But think about that. Is Ken Dorsey? I was thinking about when Ken Dorsey freaked out, and then I started Googling Ken Dorsey, and you realize this guy has been in the football vernacular now for basically 2 decades, right? As obviously the starting quarterback on one of the best college teams we've ever seen, middle of the road NFL backup type, but then goes into coaching, and now he's the offensive coordinator for a superstar. So, is Ken Dorsey interviewing for jobs this year?
Yeah.
Decent chance, right?
Yeah.
If you had to bet, is Ken Dorsey a head coach within the next year or two? Typically the way it works, right?
Yeah.
Assuming, I'm just going to assume quarterback, high-level guy, impressive. The Dougs, the Frank Reichs, like the former backup quarterbacks who then are good with offense I would imagine, are pretty impressive. We've met our fair share of just middle-of-the-road quarterbacks. They look the part walking in. They have a resume of coaching. If they've coached a high-level guy, they're usually impressive. They're guys. They're good-looking. They just kind of got it. There's a reason a lot of people want to be quarterbacks and a lot of women want to be with quarterbacks. There's just something about them. So think about this. Let's just hypothetically say Ken Dorsey gets a job this year somehow. The Bills are awesome. He gets a job. what if Joe Brady's next coordinator? Then all of a sudden in 2 years, Joe Brady's stock is back up and he's a head coach.
Yeah. I'm just
part of being a good head coach, part of getting the opportunity as a quarterback, typically, you got to be around good players. And I'm not saying Joe Brady might be a fraud. Who knows? I don't know much about him, but like, doesn't feel like anyone's having success in Carolina.
No.
They don't have quarterback.
I just eyeballed it real quick. You could make the case that there will be 10 to 11, which would be high openings.
No, that feels way high.
Well, I know. I'm just saying you can, if we went through all 32 right now, which you could, I said, you think maybe you'd say yes, maybe to like 10 or 11 teams, just looking at it real quick. So
I think the average is like 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I know. Well, here, I'll just Washington, New Orleans, Carolina, Arizona, Dallas, although Dallas feels like maybe not, but there's 5.
I would bet against Arizona.
Okay,
I mean, he
fine.
just paid them a lot of money.
Let me just give you so Indy, Denver, the Chargers, the Jets, Baltimore, maybe if something happened with Harbaugh, that's 10.
It's all 2 and 2.
I know. And Miami, if the league bans Mike McDaniel, would be 11. So there's 10. And you're right. You can argue against 3 or 4 of them pretty easily. So maybe it's 6 to 7. But that's a lot of jobs that DeMeco will be one of the better candidates for.
You know, the Dolphins just made up rules. Like, they're just clearly the league said you can't play him. Like, no team, if a guy is just in the concussion protocol, just says, yeah, he's in the protocol, we'll see. Yeah. Well, what if Tua passes out of the protocol Wednesday? There's like, he's out. Like, so you guys are just acknowledging that makes it look worse on that Sunday game, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw last night on halftime, Schefter was like, obviously Tua's out this week. And I'm like, obviously what? What do you mean, obviously? Why is it obvious? I mean, we all think he's out, but so maybe that's what he means. But like the week before, I would have said, obviously he's out this week. And then he came back into the game. So anyway, there's that. We weren't going to talk about DeMeco necessarily, but we can't talk about just this game too. With again, I'll just use the stat again: 3.8 yards per play, lowest in 77. The Panthers are not good on offense.
I watched the Arizona Carolina game on Sunday. Carolina's offense is putrid. I mean, Baker really looks terrible. I've always liked DJ Moore. I think he's good. I had a buddy once compare him to like he's a poor man's version of Debo, but he's like he's built that way. He's a good player, but him and Baker are clearly not eye to eye. We noticed a couple weeks ago when Christian got hawked, like McCaffrey, you just can't have that many injuries to your lower body. Man. He's not the same guy. They're in major trouble, guy. I mean, they cannot score points, and the Niners don't give up any points. Could the Niners win this game like 13-0? I mean, it might not even take that much.
Shanahan just packs it in. The thing is, Baker will throw you the ball once or twice. Now, McCaffrey could still break one off on you, or DJ Moore could score a breakaway touchdown. But it does feel like the Niners defense in particular is on a mission. Now, it might just feel that way because they're a fantastic team, and that's what fantastic defenses look like. But I do think they got a taste of what might be the best defense in the league. You know what I mean? Like what it's like to be the best defense in the league. I think they got a little taste of it. And I think they're going to want more this week. And this is a BP fastball for them.
Yeah, I agree. You got to take advantage of this momentum because it was pretty devastating on the Denver game. Like, guy, you lose a game 11-10. I mean, that's a kick in the nads. That was. Niners have had some devastating losses in the Shanahan era. That one, did you call it the worst loss of the Shanahan era?
I did.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You could make the argument, you know, if Debo's touchdown was the best touchdown of the Debo era.
I also made that statement. And we could argue it, but I'm confident that, like, it's in the conversation.
It's an arguable thing.
Yeah.
And that win was big. But now you got to keep the momentum because, listen, I don't even want to bring up the game after that because I think it's so easy, and you often do this in the NFL, like, because you can do it in college with good teams, right? Like win, win, win. This one's going to be tough. Win, win, win. In pros, you just cannot do that. But it's hard not to peak at Panthers, Atlanta, and not think 4-2 before. And then it's the Chiefs game, 4-2. Because if you're 4-2 going to the Chiefs game, then it's like you're in great shape. The hard part is, I was texting someone about the Raiders. When you get below 500 a couple games as the season goes, to get in that 9-10 win range, you have to go on a 3-game winning streak, right? If you are 5-7, the only way to get to the playoffs is you got to win like 3 games in a row to then get to 8-7, right? And to have a chance to take advantage of the final whatever stretch of the season. When you build that little cushion, you can get to, I'll just pick a number, 6-3. You can have a devastating loss. And you know what it is? Not a devastating loss because you're 6-4. The numbers are on your side. Remember the Yankees earlier this season? They were having like the greatest season in Yankee history. And then they went on like that 2-week span where fucking Aaron Boone's hitting the dais and everyone's freaking out. But you know what? They were like 30 games above 500. So
they won the division.
I looked the other day, they're going to win 100 games.
Yeah. Did you look? I think they're like 7 or 8 games up in their division. They clinched the playoffs like a week ago.
You got to build little cushions in football. Like in college, it doesn't matter as much, right? Because for the teams that, the 12-ish teams that want to go to the playoffs, there's one game and you're kind of derailed, right? And then you're just holding on for dear life. You can't lose again. In the pros, it's why these coaches say, listen, part of the evaluation process that's hard, you just never know. These guys coming from Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, they're just not used to losing. Up here, like, we have awesome seasons. We lose 6 games, right? 11-6. Basically, how many teams in the league right now would sign up for 11-6? 30?
Yeah, I mean,
would the Niners sign up for 11-6 right now?
So they're 2-2. So that would mean you go, 9-4.
Like with the Eagles?
The Eagles was the team I was breathing about, wondering. Because they're
feels like the Packers in their division. Like if I'm the Packers, I think I get 12. Division stinks.
Yeah, it wouldn't be great to go. If you're the Eagles, I think you feel like let's go get 12 or 13 and like be the get 13 and be the runaway 1 seed.
I would not sign up for 11-6 if I was the Eagles. If I was the Chiefs, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't if I was the Packers. If I was the Niners, I would in a heartbeat. 11-6, like I said, might win the division. But my point is to get to 11-6, you do got to get to the point where you are 6-3. Or 7-4, where you just have like, you lost some random game, you're 7-5, then you win the next week, you're 8-5, and you keep that buffer. And that's why last year, remember, it was 3-5, and it was like you're holding on to the rope for dear life, and then they won a couple games, and they barely got above it. I mean, they easily could have been 9-8 if fucking Jimmy doesn't have the 2-minute drive at the end of the Rams game, right?
Yeah, yep.
And 9-8 is now basically the new 8-8. 8-9, 9-8 to me are basically the same. It's the difference.
What's 7-9?
7-9 is probably the new 7-10.
Yeah, it's worse. It's not closer to 8-8. It's closer to 3 games under 500.
Yeah. Because I would say 8-9 is probably the difference in a fumble or a missed field goal when you really dive into it, right?
Without question.
Yeah.
Just watch the Lions.
And the same thing with
they're probably not going to get to 8-9.
The Lions?
Yeah.
You can't get to 8-9 when your defense gives up 75 points a game.
When you give up 48 to Geno.
I still can't believe how confidently he tweeted that Jared Goff's better than Matt Stafford. Like, I don't – he's not trolling or anything at all. He believes that to his core.
Well, so for all you stats people, check the numbers, which, the numbers is what's going to help Goff. The eye test is not ever going to help Goff in that argument. That's part of the deal, right?
He'd be like, don't check the tape. Look at the ESPN.com stats.
Well, it's not like the tape is great right now either.
No, Jared's tape's not terrible. It's just then do you factor in the context, right? Because I was thinking about this the other day. Like, what was I watching? Was it college? Like a sack, A lot of guys in the league. Like what makes Aaron Donald great is not the play where Burford and McGlinchey go opposite ways and he destroys untouched and he gets to Jimmy in the split second. Is that he's able to make plays like that when he's getting double teamed, right? Like a lot of people can have production with no context. It's like, he had 7 sacks. Well, 5 of them were unblocked. What makes Bosa so great is like 14 pressures, and he's getting double teamed the majority of the game or chipped.
He's not sneaking up on anybody.
Well, it's like Micah Parsons, like every game. Well, who do you think all week the offensive coordinator is screaming about, right? 11, 11, 11. You play the Niners 97, 97, 97. And those guys, it's what makes a great player. It's like, we cannot throw an inside pitch to this guy. Like, the only game plan is to try to get Mike Trout out, or, we are going to corral Steph. They're all coming at you. Every single person. Like, listen, I like Juwan Jennings. And like I think you said last night, he's more of a gamer than he probably is a practice player.
Then he had a drop right after I said that,
but like, how often is he coming up during the week of the defensive meetings?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's we'll do what we can with him, but our focus is going to be elsewhere.
It's like, if Draymond Green's going to hit some threes, we got to live with it, because we can't just let fucking Steph Clay and Kevin Durant go off, right?
Yeah. There's a reason. I mean, but that's part of having a role. There's a reason that Juwan Jennings is open on big third down plays. But you watch those plays, he still has to go make a play. It's still not easy, right?
Well, for sure. But part of like ultimately Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, like, they are asked to produce, and the other team knows that ball's coming their way. When you're the third guy, you kind of get to fly under the radar, and then you get the opportunity and you got to make plays. And then eventually, because they're not going to be able to afford you, you go Kendrick Bourne, and they sign you for more money to go play for the Patriots. I was watching Kendrick Bourne the other day. He made some plays. Like, he's probably
just on that team.
He's probably a tweener. It's probably 2.5.
First round rookie left tackle for the Panthers, John, who's given up 3 sacks this year. So we'll see.
Amenwu?
Ekwonu.
Yeah. Amenwu's on
the
Niners, right?
Ekwonu.
Yeah.
Ekwonu.
NC State kid.
Yeah.
When did NC State become such a good football program? You watch any of that game? That was like kind of a war between those two teams for a long time.
Was that Clemson?
Clemson, NC State, yeah. It was the Herbstreit game.
Yeah.
Your boy,
they had
DJ,
the lead.
DJ's coming on.
Uiagalelei?
He's having a fantastic season.
I watched that game. I was like, you know what? Dabo's just sticking with him. I've heard, I know a guy who's pretty tied. He just says Dabo loves the guy. Dabo really wants to do right by DJ Uiagalelei. Really likes him.
You see the tweet Dabo said last week after the Wake Forest game went to overtime, and DJ threw 6 touchdowns. The Wake Forest kid threw 5. They was like, final score was like 50-48, or something. And Dabo said after the game, like, so fired up for DJ. And then he said, listen, I understand that everyone wanted to see whatever the kid's name is. He claimed that he said, listen, we've recruited a lot of great players to this program in my time. This guy might be the best recruit we've ever had.
Wow.
That's what he said about the quarterback.
Wow.
Clemson ain't going away, guy.
Wow. John, Tom and Giselle, according to page 6, have each hired divorce lawyers. Multiple sources say, I'm reading now, as previously revealed, the couple have been living separately for the past couple of months after an quote-unquote epic fight. They're now apparently looking at dividing their multi-million-dollar empire. Said one source, I'm sure a close personal friend or loved one of the Tom or Giselle, never actually thought this argument would be the end of them, but it looks like it is. Imagine having...
What's the argument? Did it say what the argument is?
Well, I got to click on that link. Hold on. That's a link to a previous story about their quote unquote epic fight. There's trouble. Pop up. Model left the family compound in Tampa for Costa Rica following a series of heated arguments over Brady's shock decision to unretire from the NFL, while he's remained behind for team training. So, maybe some insight as to Tom's departure, is I think we kind of guessed during camp. Remember that? So we have been on this for a long time because we listened to the Wickersham book, and I want to pull for you something I pulled a while ago. It was when I heard this, because I listened to the Wickersham book as you did. It's better to be feared. This was when I first realized something bad could happen as related to Tom's marriage affecting his career.
Seed. Brady and Bundchen drove home from the stadium in his black Ford pickup. The sun was low. It had been a long year, and as usual for the Patriots, it was just beginning, with the playoffs impending. Sitting next to each other, their minds were in different places. "Look at the moon," Bundchen said. "The moon is incredible." I think we're supposed to play on Saturday night, Brady replied. She had a plan for New Year's Eve. After the kids were asleep, she wanted to start a fire and write a list of all the aspects of their 2017 lives to let go of and offer it to the fire. Brady quietly stared at the road.
Brady was not down with that plan.
I think
When I heard
play
that, I
on
went,
Saturday night. He's thinking he just played, driving home. She's thinking about the mood and the fire. He's thinking about, like, we actually don't play on Sunday. I don't have as much time to get ready, right? That's in his mind. Like, part of Saturday night is like, I got to start my preparation. Got to get up a little earlier tomorrow. I got to get the cut-ups. I got to text the quality control guy to fire him in my iPad.
and you got to tell the family, I know we usually have a routine, but this week it's off because
I already feel behind.
Already feel, anxious.
Do you think there's ever, honest to God, I don't think this is hyperbole, any player has ever truly loved their sport as much as Tom likes football? Because it's one thing to, like, love playing and stuff.
I mean, easy to say. Like, Peyton physically could not keep up with his love, but when you watch him do this stuff, like, he clearly, his love is very high.
But he never changed the diet quite like Tom did. Peyton always, was a little lumpier.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm again, we are talking the highest level. Like, doesn't drink, eats this weird food. Like, he dedicated his life, and now he's given up his family for the sport of football. Like, ultimately, he chose, and this is also assuming, like,
there's
they
a lot
liked each other.
Yeah,
but it can't be argued he liked football more than Giselle, right? At this point,
it's also possible. Again, I don't. This is, we have fun talking about Tom's career. It's sad people getting divorced, but
is it though? I mean, half the country does.
I mean, it's not. It's a hard time for him. He's a real person. But he had a stated long before they got married. It was clear that Tom said he wanted to play a long time, right? And so I could see how, if that became a sticking point for them, like, hey, this was part of the deal when you got here. Don't try and. There would be quite a bit of resentment if you try to get me to retire, which you and I both thought is what was happening.
A lot of sarcasm on the internet streets. Do you think he is more likely now to keep playing?
100%. Now, he does have the deal. He's supposed to be Fox's analyst next year. But here's the thing about that. Like, you're gone again, right? Being a Fox NFL analyst, remember that deal?
I forgot about that one.
And Burkhardt and...
Didn't they give him $375 million?
They gave him a crazy amount of money. Burkhardt and Greg Olsen are doing great. But that's what this... Now, I don't know if Tom intends
does Olsen get demoted immediately?
Well, does Tom go to the number 2 crew, you think? So,
did we ever see the details of Tom's role?
Well, remember, I asked all these questions when it happened. Like, are we sure? And the stories were like, no, that's what he's going to do. So I'm still skeptical that that's how it's going to play out. But my point is just, his idea of retirement is not retire and be home all the time.
Could he be on the Niners next year? It won't die. His parents are getting older. Play a little cow club on the side with Steph. I don't think he'd like to live in California. I think he likes living in Florida, the tax advantages, and it's just where he lives is badass. There's doesn't quite Los Gatos ain't bring it up where his mansion on the water is looking like, but I do wonder if that comes back up. He's a free agent after this year, I think. Is he?
Well, he signed. Well, he had 1 year left on his contract, right? He didn't change his contract. I think he is. This is year 3 for him in Tampa? He would have signed a 2-year deal initially, so maybe he does have actually another year on it.
Yeah.
Ali says he's a free agent.
Says he's a UFA in 23.
Okay, so he's a free agent.
He only makes $30 million this year. He just gives. He's got to be the greatest deal in the history of life.
Definitely in the history of quarterbacks.
Kyler Murray's making 45. He's making 30.
And you think that's a bad deal?
I would say that I would rather have Tom for 30 than Kyler at. I'd rather have Tom for 30 than Kyler at 5.
Yeah.
I would rather have Tom for 30 basically than any quarterback beside like Mahomes. Like, I'd rather have Tom for 30 than Aaron for 50, wouldn't you? because what I could do with the extra 20.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people might argue you'd just rather have Tom for 50 than Aaron for 50, even though Aaron's the MVP back to back.
Might rather have Aaron for 50. Tom is a little more dependent. I know their offensive line's banged up. I do think when you factor in the money, Tom's. I think Michael Jordan, his last year 98 made 32 or something. How is Tom Brady never once has been like, can I just get like 48 this year? Never once.
Well, I mean, it's also factoring not just the money, but the level of teammate.
Someone tweeted at me, do you think Tom will get alimony?
Well, I did. When I was reading that, it did occur to me that is she richer than him? I don't know.
Would that be a win for men who have rich men? Obviously, if you know, I'm all for fair stuff.
I don't understand why either one of them has to pay the other one on this one.
Yeah, I can't. It's just law.
It might just be. It may not be that. It might just be as simple as here's this house is yours. This house is mine.
You remember Mackenzie and Jeff had a pretty easy breakup. He's like, here's who? Here's Mackenzie Bezos.
Oh yeah.
And then Jeff, he looks pretty happy.
Did she give a lot of it away? Wasn't that the deal? Like she did not care. I mean, obviously kept a lot still, but
yeah. If you get $5 billion and you give 2 away, you still got 3.
But now you can't buy the Broncos or the Cardinals or the Suns,
True. Mackenzie's flying under the radar.
All right. Anything else to add today?
I'm just fascinated to watch Single Tom. What happens?
On the field or off the field? Or both?
Do you think he gets asked about it tomorrow when he talks? It's weird. Like, shouldn't care, but they kind of transcend, don't they, their relationship? Or do you not ask quarterbacks for their
I don't think so. Like, my guess is people who cover the team knew why he was gone, that he was gone for this reason, and they knew that, and that was just not going to be a part of it. Was off the record or whatever.
I do wonder if, like, when he was trying to, I don't know if save his marriage, but just like, listen, I got to get away and figure this out. Are they mid-argument? And he's like, Alex is here. I gotta go train. We'll be back. We'll continue this in about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like
Arians just showed up with some tape.
Well, do you think he trained those 10 days?
Yeah. I do.
I'd be fascinated to know the details of that hiatus. Did he just go out of respect? Like, listen, I'm done with her, but
it's probably so.
She done with him?
Well, I think part of it, right, is you can't focus on, like, you're trying to do your work and you can't because you're texting, you're calling, you just got to get it figured out. We just got to have a sit down, as they say on the mob,
That's what it was. It's like, I can't. She's texting me. I'm fucking trying to watch cut-ups of third down. It's driving me nuts, I got to get this third down package down. And she just won't stop blowing up my phone, Byron.
Leftwich is like, do what you got to do. We got, we got Trask, and we got really, Tom. If you could make it back by week 1, that'd be great.
I do think Tampa is the strip club capital of the world per capita. Not the
Tom at the bottom.
No. I don't think Tom. You see Tom at the Blue Martini, but that's not a strip club. That's just a bar that I think Raheem Morris used to go to a lot when he was the head coach. It was a famous bar that just NFL people would frequent.
The Clevelander, I guess that's Miami.
Has there ever been a better example of Louis C.K.'s "I'm here for the sex" than just Tom Brady right now? Is he the most eligible bachelor in recent memory?
You listen to the book. I mean, with Tom Brady after his first Super Bowl. Tara Reid, remember that story?
Yeah. I mean, that was young in the heyday, but now
Tom and they just like come fly out for a date.
Don't you think the people coming at him, like the level, like back then it was just young, hot. Like now he's 45. He's a dad, sexy, kind of got the DILF thing going, but he's still got this young vibe. He's unlimited, like money just up the wazoo, fame level, cool. Everyone likes him. I mean, is it one of the greatest catches of all time at 45? Just hit the open market?
So the top female CEOs in the world are Bezos, power couple, Mackenzie?
You're saying Mackenzie and Tom?
Yeah.
I don't, just seeing Tom's previous relationships, I don't know if she'd qualify. Like, Jeff.
I was trying to think, what is the equivalent of like Britney Spears, but without the off-court drama? Who is that person? Because that feels like someone who's like a, not Christina Aguilera, like Madonna if she was younger, or like an actress that was huge in that, in like the early 2000s, or maybe like 8 years ago, like
who's the chick in Wolf of Wall Street? She's become
Margot
pretty big.
Robbie.
I could see,
but currently she's huge. So yeah, I mean that's a little different than what we're talking about, but that would make sense.
Would you be shocked if I was like Tom spotted with Margot Robbie at a Miami
Taylor
hotspot?
Swift? No, that's a good. That I would not be shocked.
A
That's
little
a different
younger.
profile than what I was talking about, but I don't think you can rule that out. Aniston?
Is Margot Robbie? God, Margot Robbie is a fox. Margot Robbie, she married or anything? I think she's
divorced.
single.
Yeah. Aniston? Older,
Yeah,
too old.
I feel like Tom's gonna go a couple years, like mid to late 30s. Like
but how old is
I'd
Margot
be shocked
Robbie?
if
Like
he's going
32?
like 24, Leo
How old is
style.
Margot Robbie?
32 feels.
That's wheelhouse right there.
Yeah, because
Already
women are all
established.
already like whatever their age is. If they're 30, their maturity level often can easily click into like 10 plus years, where guys go the opposite way. She was dating a Rangers hockey player.
Sydney Sweeney.
Dated a director. I thought it said Steve Kerr. It said Sophia Kerr. I was like, God, she dated Steve Kerr.
Always dated director. That's key.
I think Serena got married to one, right?
Well, no, he founded Reddit.
Oh, yeah. That did, I mean, let's face it. You just got cash. You got more options.
You're Tom Brady. You have all the options.
Yeah. But like that guy that founded Reddit, like if he was just
had
a little shop, like he ain't married to Serena.
Yeah,
I know they're probably like legitimately in love or whatever. I know they have children,
Sure,
but like
there's a level of trust that comes with finding someone as famous and as rich as you that they're not there to take advantage of you.
Even though she was this great tennis player, he literally just figured out this website where people just chat back and forth.
I think he's got some other businesses, but that's the one I'm aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was the cash cow business. Obviously, I mean, it's worked.
Yeah. Well,
I want to see. I'm rooting for Margot Robbie.
That's a good one. I'm rooting for him not to retire for several years. So this is all part of the sports landscape, Margot at games. I mean, remember Jeter's run was. They were everybody. Not everybody. The ones we knew of were very famous.
ESPN now would fire everyone alive if they tweeted this out. Remember when they tweeted out?
Tweeted, John. It was a Sports Center feature.
Yeah.
They did it on Sports Center. The starting lineup of all his girlfriends.
They couldn't even comprehend doing something like that now, could they?
No. Which honestly, no. Yeah.
It's when the internet was great.
All right. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. Mailbag coming up later in the week. And we'll see everybody live after that, also on Sunday as well.
Later. Get it, Tom.